People reckon that the new Liverpool collection might be one of the best kit collections in the world football. In my opinion, the third kit carries it, but I still think that it's pretty good. But that will get us on to the topic of this video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you as many tips as possible to improve your football kit concept collections. What do I mean by collections, though? When I talk about collections in this video, I basically mean home, away, and third kits. This video is not just for Eafc Kit Creator, which is what I use, but also other things like Photoshop. If there is anything that you have to do that's specific on it, I will put a little icon in the top corner which shows the Eafc Kit Creator logo. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Part 1, home kits. With the home kits, it's always got to come with tradition, obviously. You always want to keep the same home kit colours year after year. And of course, if you keep 2 different colours, then you'll want to do that. Some teams like to do specific kind of designs with their kits. For example, Croatia always do checkers, but it's slightly mixing it up every now and then. You can do some really nice Croatia kits, but you can also do some really bad ones. Another team that kind of does stick to tradition when the design is Barcelona. They don't always do stripes because they have done checkers in the past and also half and half. But usually if you're going to do a Barcelona kit, you want to stick to the stripes. When it comes to badges, you probably want to stick to just the current badge. And I think that's the most easy way to stick with it. Depending on how the kit looks, you might want to make it monochrome, which is really easy to do. But if not, just use the coloured version. I think that's just the best option how to do it. And finally, with the details and design, I would just stick with just a pattern that kind of incorporates the kit itself, or the club even. Sometimes the pattern in kit's just like incorporating the area, or maybe the badge, or something to do with the club. So that's what I would suggest doing when it comes to design. Part 2, away kits. When it comes to away kits, you obviously have a bit more freedom. Of course, the main rule with colours in football kits for away kits is obviously not to match with the home kit. Something that clubs like doing is the same kind of away kit colours. Sometimes Arsenal like wearing yellow away kits, which I think some of them are really nice, actually. And sometimes it's usually always the same colour. I can't think of any examples at the top of my head, but there are some teams that always like kind of switching over from home and away kit colours. For example, I think Russia sometimes like doing this, is where sometimes they have a red home kit and a white away kit. And then in the season afterwards, they'll have a white home kit and a red away kit. Basically, when you're making concept kits, you usually want to make them for the next season or for the current season if it's a new season. So what I would suggest doing is just following in the pattern with teams like that. Moving on to the badges of the kit, I would always suggest kind of sticking to the normal badge. That's what I would always do at least, but you do have a bit of more freedom with it. Some clubs like doing retro badges just to throw in a bit of difference in there. For example, Fulham's away kit this season likes to use one of their older badges, which I actually think works really well on the kit. Especially when it comes to anniversaries, clubs always like to throw in either a retro badge or a special type of badge, which I forgot to talk about for the home kits. So unless it's an anniversary year, just use the normal badge or a retro badge. And finally, the details. The details of the kit can really make up the kit. I would always suggest for the detailed colours to use the home kit colours, if you know what I mean. For example, the Crystal Palace away kit this season is mostly white, but it incorporates a bit of blue into it and a bit of red to, of course, incorporate the home kit colours. I would always suggest doing this, but sometimes you can be a bit more lenient with it. My favourite Barcelona kit is the 95 away kit, which is mostly this kind of nice teal colour, but incorporates a lot of blue and red into it, which kind of ties it in with the home kit, which I always really like. And finally, the third kit. The third kit is obviously going to be the most kind of freedom you have when designing a kit. If you look at my kits, which are of course linked in the description in my channel, you can see most of them are either fourth kits, which we're not going to be talking in this video, or third kits. Usually third and fourth kits are always the same, so I'm just going to classify them as third kits. When it comes to third kits, you obviously, like I've said before, you have the most kind of freedom with it. You can do whatever the hell you want with it, basically. There's 3 options when it comes to colours with kits. Is you want to have just a neon colour, where it's just, obviously, it's going to be different. You can also have just kind of basic, like black or white colours, or you can have whatever you want, which is what I prefer doing. Of course, when it comes to colours, I would also incorporate some of the club's colours into it, but we'll get on that to the details. Moving on to the badges now. I think this is one of the only ones where I don't think that you should use the normal badge. I think it's just a waste of a badge, if you know what I mean. But I would always incorporate the icon. Usually every single club has their own icon. For example, Arsenal always have a gunner. Barcelona might have that little football in the badge, etc. But I would always suggest using an icon. Take, for example, this Chelsea third kit that was in the thumbnail. It just uses the Chelsea line, which I think is really nice, actually. And finally, we have the details and designs. For the colour details, I would always suggest going for a bit out there and a bit more modernistic colours, if depending on what your vibe is. For example, just sticking with this Chelsea third kit, I kept the blue, and I think it was just a slightly different blue, but I stuck with a kind of blue-pink kind of colour scheme, and I really like the effect of it. The design-wise, I would always suggest either going for two options, which is either modern or really kind of like fancy, old-timey, if you know what I mean. The third option is obviously just a really boring kit, but we're not obviously going to be talking about that. I always go for a more modernistic-looking third kit, and I think it just kind of matches the kind of third kit vibe almost. Part 4, extra tips. For any other extra tips I have, one of the number one things that I have is obviously the limitations when it comes to the kits. It's not necessarily a tip, but it's more of just kind of the way that you can use yourself. Home kits are very limited, whilst away kits are kind of middle of the line, whilst third kits are pretty much whatever the hell you want to do. I always like doing third kit, like I've already said. Another tip I have is to always kind of tie your kits together. Sometimes kits just look really off with each other, but sometimes they work perfectly well with each other. Your away kit should always incorporate a bit of home kit colour, so it looks nice with that, but your third kit should also incorporate a bit of the club into it as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this really helped you with kind of making those kind of kit collections, if you want to say. But anyway, that's all for me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.